Afternoon, everybody. Post CPI recap here today. On the hourly, a lot of movement. It didn't really go anywhere, right? Down, up, down, kind of consolidated. We're trading off of this 1 hour fair value gap that we have marked out. And then this one up here was simply to clear out buy side and return into this 1 hour fair value gap here as well. So it's just bouncing between these PD arrays. Don't forget, our new week opening gap levels are also in this area. So that's why price is just gravitating around here. In London, you'll see that we had created a short-term high, right? Traded up into it, cleared it, traded into the high of this new week opening gap, and then broke structure lower. After breaking structure, right, we will just look for price to return into this new week opening gap here, as well as this hourly fair value gap. We had spoke about yesterday in the recap how this sell side low would be our interest, right? If we were going to break and sweep out liquidity prior to CPI, sell side would be our interest. And you see here in London, that's what we deliver into. During that little rollover between London and New York, you'll see how we create a consolidation. Right, so just hold in this range, right underneath that old low. But that's all we're holding at. And then right at CPI, right, notice this little setup here. We clear out these equal lows. Right here is our market structure shift when we break above. So let me move this old low. Market structure shift. Volume imbalance left behind. Right, as well as just this 1 minute fair value gap. So you'll see how the bodies, right, bodies remain in the fair value gap. Wicks go into the volume imbalance. And from here, right, CPI drops. So you see, even during CPI, we're still respecting just these concepts here in order flow. And from there, right, as CPI usually is, one-sided delivery directly into our buy side target. We had spoke about how on this 15-minute, right, this swing point here was our area of interest. This is a higher time frame swing point. And we had these new week opening gaps, as well as this right hourly fair value gap marked out. So this would be the draw on liquidity, and price would be reaching into this new week opening gap as well. So you see on the 15, right, that's what we deliver into. Just to remain here, look at how precise price delivers into that, right? So not random, beautiful delivery right into that new week opening gap. Basically the consequent encroachment of the hourly fair value gap as well. Back on the 1 minute, right, initially we run into this, our current week opening gap. We had mentioned how, right, we were going to hesitate here, act as a little speed bump, but if we were able to trade up and through it, really clear sailing into this buy side target. So you'll see, right, we bounced there initially, still just returning into this 1 minute fair value gap. If I was to drag this out, you'll see how, right, we're returning into simply an old high here. So the old high created yesterday that we spoke about, the equal highs that would be important today, as we break above that, right, we look for that to act as support. And you see, right, just real clean delivery. So we bounce off the new week opening gap, retrace just into that old high, and then from there we break up and through now this new week opening gap and really push into buy side. Right, you'll see how we hit buy side here, fall short of this fair value gap, slight retracement, just engineering liquidity in the form of these equal highs. Right, so we're engineering liquidity just below a higher time frame premium. So we spoke that because this is where we would want price to really reject from, and we were creating equal highs. We would look to see if price didn't run those equal highs and then give us a market structure shift. Right, lo and behold, price does exactly that. It runs up, clears out the equal highs, returning into the new week opening gap, holding, breaking structure now here, creating our YouTube model breaker, right, both of those formations. This was prior to 9:30, however. So now we spoke about, right, going into 9:30, while we were trusting this setup to hold, we would most likely just chop until 9:30 and get a Judas swing at that 9:30 opening. Right, you'll see here, after we break structure, right, we kind of just chop for a little bit, marking time until 9:30. And then at 9:30, as expected, we give that Judas swing just back into this setup here. So see, we're returning just into this higher fair value gap, touching that 1 hour fair value gap as well perfectly there. And if I show you on the 2 minute, I like the 2 minute as well. Right, this 2 minute setup, very clean, where we run that high, break structure. This 2 minute fair value gap here holds those candle bodies nicely. This is our order block level as well. So just a lot of things aligned here, right? Which is why we were looking for price to create the Judas swing into it and then reject from there and retrace into now this range created. Because we have to think, right, during regular trading hours, there's going to be a discount now from where price closed yesterday and where price opened this morning. After respecting the setup here, we just now create that really extended heavy sell-off right back into this range. But you notice we're just really gravitating back into new week opening gaps. So we sell off into the new week opening gap. Look at that precision here at the lows. Just holding that level perfectly. From there we bounce. Now just returning into this premium here. So the original setup that held, right? Smart money reversal here. Right, this would be that high probability setup. We break structure again. Now it's just returning into the premium here. Right, you'll see after returning into that premium, this little mini, right? Short-term high being cleared. That counts as a swing point. This here is a swing low. So now market structure shift lower. From there, what gets left behind? Fair value gap. So we're creating the YouTube model as we are coming off of a premium that we would expect price to reject from. So it really just confirming that trade idea to continue to trade lower. So that area holds us, trades us back below now the new week opening gap. At this point, right, very confident in this fair value gap holding because it has broken underneath our new week opening gap level. Right, we have fell short of sell side, so we've created relative equal lows. So at this point, we were just looking for this new week opening gap level to reject us. And you'll see, right, we bump into it once, twice, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Finally, break lower. And from there now, right, we really deliver into sell side here. And at this point, we get that delivery into the sell side prior to CPI. So I have this low here, right? Just notice how it's relative equal lows. All these relative equal lows we had here finally get pierced on this run lower. And you'll notice, right, it did that because it just ran up to clear buy side, higher time frame buy side, higher time frame premium. So we are returning into a higher time frame discount now. Even though we clear that low, notice where candle bodies are holding. So I really look at the importance of these new week opening gaps and how they, right, hold price, repel price, attract price to it. Right, if you understand how to utilize these new week opening gaps in line with the narrative, it's very powerful. From here, after clearing sell side, bouncing at the new week opening gaps, right, we get a retracement back up into now these new week opening gaps. Heading into lunch, we do give another little setup to where we have a short-term high cleared, market structure shift lower, fair value gap here, institutional order flow entry drill just barely gets wicked into, and you'll see we break lower, delivering into sell side targets here, right, and then eventually taking out this low again. So coming out of lunch, you'll see right that we were trending lower. We traded into the low. Now remember, this is the higher time frame hourly fair value gap. So we've hit that hourly fair value gap, creating a swing low, trade off that low. And then notice, right, we run down, clear that swing low after, right, 1:30. So we speak about how 1:30 really is our afternoon session. And right, you'll notice how this is basically the Judas swing for now our afternoon session. Because if I was to just like drag out, right, say right at 1:30 is our afternoon session. This move here is simply the Judas swing for the afternoon, clearing out a short-term low, breaking structure higher. And this was a very clean entry point, right? And a lot of you guys managed to take place in this. So that was cool to see. To where, just like we'd like to see, broken with displacement, leaving a fair value gap, right? Volume imbalance. We're going to have an inversion here, right? We have a breaker. So a lot of things aligned here. Time as well. Time before anything, right, was really important. So from here, we end up creating just the low of the day. We then start to rally just back up into now the new week opening gaps again. So just continuing, right, to gravitate around these new week opening gaps. Here for our power hour session, right, so we rally here into the afternoon. We got on for power hour and spoke about how as we break up and through this new week opening gap with a fair value gap, this now would be our area of interest to look for longs, right? Support price. And since we broke above this new week opening gap, price would simply just draw into these new week opening gaps here. So you'll see price puts in nice, right, fair value gap, puts in more discounts, volume imbalances we pointed out along the way, continue to hold price, trade up higher, right? Eventually we had short-term buy side here that got cleared. So I'll just mark that quickly. And that's why we get this retracement. We had spoke about how after clearing buy side, we could see a retracement into now the unfilled discounts. And that's all that happens here, right? Volume imbalance, fair value gap, before giving us that real now expansion up and through this new week opening gap here. So at that point, just spoke about how we would continue to see price reach, right, at least for this buy side here. So this is a higher time frame, 15-minute swing point. So we have this high, and notice how it's aligned with this inefficiency, this bearish fair value gap. So we wick into it barely, but right, didn't even reach into the consequent encroachment. So price was gravitating into this inefficiency as well as this buy side liquidity pull. So you see it fall short here once. Right, this is just engineering a little buy side liquidity before running into it. We had mentioned how the down close candle would support price, right? In bullish order flow like this, down close candles will support price. Throw that in, right? Mix in a volume imbalance with that. So really just looking for price to find support here and bounce. And you see that happens. We bounce and finally deliver into that buy side, which ends up being just the high of the power hour session. After we clear this buy side, we simply just gravitate now back again towards that new week opening gap. So the new week opening gaps continue to be utilized, and we continue to just consolidate around them. So heading into tomorrow, ideally we have just cleared this sell side. We were speaking about how we're putting in now a little seek and destroy. So if I go like a 15, right, you'll see we have high, low, higher high, lower low, higher high, lower low. This has been occurring on the daily chart. So we'll want to see if this now puts in, right, and manifest on the 15-minute. So potentially to run into this new week opening gap here and clear out this buy side again. That's kind of what we'll be looking for the next 2 days. So yeah, that'll wrap up today's little post CPI recap. We'll be on same time tomorrow morning, 8:30 Eastern. So until then, have a good night, and we'll talk in the morning.